Okay, so today I have another Milwaukee heavy hitter. Muhibb Dyer has dedicated his life to helping others overcome adversity and discover their purpose. A Milwaukee native, Muhibb was born and raised in the infamous 53206, the most incarcerated zip code in America. Despite the fact that many of his childhood peers fell victim to homicide and incarceration, he managed to survive the pitfalls of inner city life and ultimately graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee with a bachelor's degree in educational policy and community studies. For over 17 years, Muhibb has reached more than 250,000 youth across 25 states through keynote addresses, workshops, and theatrical presentations focused on hope and empowerment. Following the tragic loss of his godson, he co-founded Flood the Hood with Dreams and the I Will Not Die Young campaign, leading thousands of seminars in schools and correctional facilities, colleges, and community organizations. Muhibb has also been featured on various media platforms, including BET, Al Jazeera, Democracy Now!, and countless others. Muhibb is also a National Slam Poetry finalist. He performed at the ACLU convention with Muhammad Ali and Dave Chappelle in 2002, opened for Minister Louis Farrakhan in 2010, was honored by the National Black Caucus in 2013, noted as 44 most influential African Americans in Wisconsin in 2016, and was featured in the breakthrough documentary Milwaukee 53206. He continues to inspire change by using his voice to impact youth locally and globally. Thank you for joining me, Muhibb, today.
Thank you, my old friend.
It's great to see you again.
And I appreciate the opportunity to have this interview by you. And when I'm listening to half that stuff, it sounds like it's not me.
Oh, okay. So, first things first, I want to allow you to just tell us who you are in your own words and what you do.
Well, when anybody asks me that question, I always say first, I'm a little black boy from the north side of Milwaukee, from a street called Burleigh that was known as the Zoo. If it wasn't for my Umi, Arabic word for mother, praying for me and guiding me and teaching me how to be a servant. As a little boy, you know, she would take me to food pantries. She would take me to funerals. She would take me to hospitals. I always say I never knew Mother Teresa, but I know my Umi Anissa. Anissa is her name. And she was the one who really put me on this road to guidance and just trying to do my best to make this world a better place. So that, her influence and the influence of growing up in 53206, the most incarcerated zip code in the United States of America, that kind of honed who I am as a person. I walk with that everywhere I go. And not only in my acts of service, but also in my writings, in my poetry, in my work, I wanted always to reflect the quality of where I come from, as well as the spirituality that my mother imparted on my soul.
What was your upbringing like in your family dynamic? Like, were you the only child growing up?
Nah. At times it may have felt like that because my brothers and my sisters were a little bit older than me. So my sister, who I do different community projects with, her name is Deidre Rochelle. She's about 8 years older than me. And then I have a brother who's a couple years older than me. Some of the family dynamic was always a good thing though. I think I was protected. I think my brothers and sisters they always looked out for me. I was kind of the baby to a certain extent. They also guided me and pushed me to be the best I could possibly be. So my mother, going back to her, she named me Muhibb. Muhibb means the loving, or one who is loved. So I've always felt an immense amount of love from my family, and I think that kind of laid the foundation for who I became too, because when your family loves you, they give you permission to go forth in the world and try to find your purpose and do great things. Like I said, it's always some things in there with the family dynamic. But even some of the negativity that I was involved in with my family, sometimes it's kind of a rites of passage. I wasn't green or naive to the ways of the world either, so I kind of walked this balance between spirituality and knowing what people are going through, because I've been there. I'm not just I haven't always been just a good boy.
So in what ways has your childhood influenced who you are now and the work that you do?
I think the greatest impact, beyond the positivity of my childhood, is the trauma too. I as I recall, the first time that I met my biological father, I was 7 years old, and although we have pretty good relationship now, I can identify with a segment of the population, young African American boys especially, who kind of feel fatherless at times and don't have the connection or the relationship that they wanted with their father. I think he did the best that he could, just like my stepfather. I think he did the best that he could as well. But I definitely can understand how it feels to be a part of the fatherless generation, and to have that missing piece in your life, or the missing desire to have a relationship sometimes that you will want with your father. So I think that's one of the first things. A lot of it is trauma. One of the second things is, I remember the first time that I lost a childhood friend. I was 11 years old. I remember receiving a telephone call that a friend that I had seen just a week previous had went to a carnival in Zion, Illinois. His name was Fahim Ahmed, and it was a skinhead at the time. He was going through, this was 1986, so I'm 11. Skinhead was going through the carnival with a gun, 357 Magnum, putting it to the heads of black children and saying, when they show fear, this is your lucky day, nigga, you get a chance to live. So he came to my friend, and my friend, he really wasn't a punk. He wasn't that kind of kid. So when he put the gun to his chest and said, nigga, this is your lucky day to live, my friend said, I'm not afraid of your gun. And he shot him point blank range, blew a hole through his chest, and they said the gun was so powerful that it blew a hole out of a tractor tire. It was a 357 Magnum. And I learned then that tomorrow may never come. And I learned then early in life that some kids have what we call imaginary friends. Well, my imaginary friends became people who were living and breathing. It wasn't just like a fictional character that you made up in your mind. It was people who were living and breathing, um, who disappeared like that. And it never stopped. It from 11 to, I remember, young man Leonard that I went to middle school with at 16. He passed away, and then my friend Tori at 18, and it's just like every couple years, even to 3 summers ago, my friend Dondale Young, he was murdered. It's like a long string of these people who were good human beings. These people, in some cases, were fathers. In the other case, they never got an opportunity to be fathers. My godson Preston, he died at 16. He never got a chance to fly in a plane or go places and do things. So I honored them and where I come from and the trauma that we walk with. I try to tell their stories and make sure they are never forgotten. I carry a bag full of obituaries when I go into my classes and I talk about their lives, because I'm the one who survived. And it's like somebody lives to tell the story, and I'm the one who has done that. So I do that through my story and through my poems and my work and my activism. A lot of it is about them and redeeming their lives and keeping their memory alive. That's the Black Lives Matter to me that I know.
What inspired you to go into spoken word poetry, and how did you develop the confidence to inspire and uplift others?
Yeah, I think I spoke on it in the last answer. But I think this young lady drew a picture of me many years ago, and it's this picture of me like with my mouth open, because people know me as I'm not as calm as I am right now when I do my poetry. It's kind of loud and can be a bit rambunctious, and some people have described it as over the top, wherever all of this energy comes from.
It'd be a great performance.
Yeah,
I'll admit to great performance.
So I do. So yeah. So all of that.
Yeah.
Right. So she's catching me. I have my mouth open, and I'm holding this child's hand, but it's this long line of children behind me that it looks like thousands, maybe even millions of kids, and I'm holding their hand. And the little boy's hand, who I'm holding in the front, he has tape over his mouth, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I'm their voice. I think I've always wanted to tried to be the voice of the voiceless. I already mentioned my friends who are no longer here, who transition to the spirit world. Somebody has to speak for them.
Right.
But advocacy and activism, even if it's poetic activism, is all about using your voice, using your platform to speak for those who can't speak for themselves. So I think that's a part of it. The other part of it is I've always tried to use my poetry as a mirror for the experiences of children, so that when I enter classrooms and I do workshops with them, that when I speak, they can see that I'm telling their story, and it gives them permission to find their own voice and begin to use their own words to express what God has given them. So my poetry has always been about those two things. Number one, activists, becoming the voice of the voiceless, and trying to use it as a mirror to get others to tap into that God-like voice within them and find their expression, their own expression.
Was there like a specific poet like that you were inspired by?
Well, it's a couple different things. I think I come from me being born in 1975, and I just turned 51 this year. I come from an era of hip hop where I had KRS-One and Rakim. I can remember Rakim had Moved the Crowd, and that's a line that moved the crowd where he says, all praises due to Allah, and that's a blessing. So I can remember being a kid in middle school and, kind of being, when you're different, you're always an outcast. I got a funny name, a Muslim name, a funny name. My friends come over my house, I pray different. Who y'all bowing to? Like all of these different things, right?
Right.
And I'm just a little boy trying to find my way, but I'm different. So I think hearing those words helped to validate who I was.
Okay.
And it made it cool to be conscious. It made it cool to be righteous. Same thing with, like I said, KRS-One. It's like being a teacher. He was the one. I'm the teacher, right? So hip hop is poetry to rhythms, first and foremost. So those were the first voices that I listened to. And then I had a good friend who was a poet out in Philadelphia. His name was Wadu, and he had a poetry album. I think it was probably the first time I heard spoken word. Maybe this was like the early 90s. And just his voice, the ability to be able to stand up on the stage when, we talked about earlier, it seems like I exude all the confidence in the world, but I'm not that boy necessarily, per se. I'm not that man. I do have insecurities. I do have, fears and reservations. Even now, standing up and talking before audiences, I still get nervous. But seeing my big brother do poetry and speak about societal issues with so much conviction and passion and telling his story and giving his thoughts, I was attracted to that. I gravitated towards that. And of course, the older poets, you talk about Sonia Sanchez. I had the opportunity to meet her before. The great Nikki Giovanni, met her before. I met the last poets before. And all the different poets of that era, including some of the older poets from here, the Black Poetic Messengers, Mumba and Teju. These are all names of people who laid the foundation and became the shoulders upon which I stood and they passed the baton to me as me and my brother, Kwabena Antone Nixon, and so many others from here, Dasha Kelly and Shelley Conley, the poet laureate, and Jazzy, and just so many. I want to name drop, but we tried to do our best to carry on that tradition, the tradition of poetry and activism and making this world a better place through our words.
How did Flood the Hood with Dreams and the I Will Not Die Young campaign start?
Okay. Flood the Hood with Dreams came first. It was 2005. My godson, Preston Blackmore, I always speak about him. He was murdered on 28th and Burleigh. And actually, to tell you the truth, me, Kwabena Nixon, and Rob Biko Baker, we started the Campaign Against Violence, which was a different organization than the I Will Not Die Young campaign. It was born out of that because what we wanted to do was Um, Violence has been going on in the city for a long time. And yeah, we wanted to do something about it. So we organized my godsons, friends in that neighborhood. We saw that they needed something. Because when we look at violence and we look at stopping the violence, it's a lot of different things that children need in neighborhoods, that when they don't have it, they are inclined towards that type of activity. So even back then, we would come on the block and we would try to feed them. And then we would try to develop different retreats that they can go on. So one time we took them to Lake Geneva because we wanted to get them out of the concrete and get them into nature and see life just from a different angle, a different perspective, right? But one of the biggest contributions that we made was we organized them and we started doing peace marches through the neighborhood. This was back in 2005. I remember one of the biggest ones we did was off 32nd and Center, and it was like children were coming out of their houses with no shoes on and just marching with us. And it was just good times, just trying to infuse the neighborhood and the community with a lot of love. The Flood the Hood with Dreams was a byproduct of that because we wanted to have a component that goes into the schools and use poetry and healing workshops as a tool to be able to get young people to talk about their pain, because ultimately that's the source of it. What we always say is hurt people hurt people. So a lot of the murders that occur, if you trace, well, I just put it this way. Whenever I go into a classroom, me and Kwabena go into a classroom in this city, and you were a byproduct of that. Once upon a time, we asked young people the question, raise your hand if you know somebody under the age of 21 who lost their life to violence. More than, in this city, more than 85 to 90% of the classroom always raised their hand. And then we say, raise your hand if you know somebody who's locked up in jail. 85 to 90% of the people raise their hand. And you can keep going on and on with those questions. Raise your hand if you have a parent that's incarcerated, or raise your hand if you ever seen your mother being physically abused. Raise your hand if you hear police sirens and gunshots in your neighborhood. And what we find is, and I didn't even know this at the time, but we are giving children a oral representation of a psychological test that's called the ACE test. And what the ACE test it stands for is adverse childhood experiences. So if you take this test, and I think it's maybe 10 questions on the test, if you answer in the affirmative to more than 6 on the test, what the ACE test is saying that you're highly likely to go to jail.
Yeah.
You're highly likely to die prematurely. Like, this is data that goes along with this. So if we look at that, we know and we understand that what the issue that we have here in Milwaukee is trauma amongst children, and the way in which we've tried to go about helping to heal that trauma is through writing and encouraging them to express it and not hold it in. Because like we say, hurt people, but we also say heal people. And the only difference between the two is how you handle your scars.
What inspired the creation of the Children Are Crying calendar, and where can it be purchased?
The Children Are Crying calendar has been in existence for 25 years now.
No, I didn't know that.
Half my life.
So you really an OG in this city when it comes to this work.
So that being, praise God. That being said, in 2001, I wrote a poem called "The Children Are Crying," and the poem, the line goes, the line I repeat is, I ain't gonna cry no more, cause crying tears is for punks, and I ain't no punk, I'm a thug. I'm a real thug. And then I just get into the explanation of why I think I'm a thug as that child. I'm a real thug, daddy, because you never taught me how to be a real man. You never taught me how to be a real man. You never sat me down on your lap or read me bedtime stories and told me that I could be somebody. You never loved me. You never wanted me. You wanted sex from my mama. You never loved me. You never wanted me. I was an accident. You never loved me. You never wanted me. You begged my mama to get an abortion. You begged my mama to get an abortion, and when she refused, you got down on your hands and your knees and you prayed to God. You said, Lord, please don't allow this woman to have this baby. You got down on your hands and your knees and you prayed to God for her to lose me. She didn't lose me, but for your sins, his sins, I had to pay the cost. I wasn't stillborn. No, my mama didn't lose me. I wasn't stillborn, but I was stillborn lost. So I go from there into the boy talking about having issues in school, into him dropping out of school, and at the end of the poem, he has a gun. Really pointed not at his father, but at all of humanity. Because as Malcolm X said in one of his speeches, I am the hate that hate produced. And that's what you're seeing with these young kids. So I had an idea from doing that poem. The children are crying. So how can I use that child, the children are crying, as a warning signal to Milwaukee and the whole country at that time, like, hey, look, we need to do something about this. That's 25 years ago, where I started taking pictures and doing poetry, and some of the pictures in the calendar was of a young man wrapped in yellow tape, or I had a picture of a friend one time, a mother who lost her son, like she's in the funeral home and she's reaching out and her son is kind of like looking back at his mama, but he's trying to get into the casket. So it's like all of these different ideas to get people to think like, look, it does really take a village. What are we going to do to help these babies? Because if we don't do something to help them now, fast forward 25 years later, you're going to have teen takeovers. You're going to have teens taking over malls, and you're going to have shootings, all these shootings and all of these. Yeah, it's like I saw it way back then that maybe this is the work, like every generation has their own civil rights movement. Our forefathers, they had, fought for voting rights, and, it was the Black Power movement trying to, create the notion that black is beautiful and that black is not a negative stereotype, and you have human rights and different wars, the War of Vietnam. Maybe our generational task is to save our children, because something's happened with our children where they don't want to be here anymore, and they don't care about being here and taking us with them. Because when you driving 90 miles per hour and you running red lights, to me that's not homicide, that's suicide, right? It's suicide. And I talk to young people all the time at the juvenile department of corrections here in Milwaukee, and yeah, why should I care about my life when nobody cares about me? Yeah. I think it's an old African quote, and I don't want to say it wrong. It said, "You leave the kids out in the cold, they'll burn the village down in order to feel the warmth."
Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna burn it down.
Yeah.
And that's what you're saying. We will burn this down to feel the warmth because they've been left out in the cold.
As a father, how has parenthood shaped you, and why do you believe it is important for fathers to be actively present in their children's lives?
When you're a father, I think, and a real father who takes it serious, you have a dividing line in your life, or defining line in your life, right? It's like they do before Christ and after his death, BC and AD. Like we get a line in our life before we have children and after, because your life just totally changes. And then my first daughter, Zaria, I always say she kind of saved my life and changed my life, because I really believe before her I was a boy. You know, after her I had this little girl who was dependent on me to protect her, to love her, to support her in every way that I could. And my mother kind of gave the example of the parent who would be there at everything, right? So at my basketball games, poetry, graduations, whatever I had going on, my mother was always there. So that's kind of who I learned parenting from. So I think I parent, but I think it's kind of a unique characteristic of men, because I'm not the only one. Men in my generation, the way we parent is more like not traditional fathers, where the mother is the one that's there for everything and the father is the breadwinner. I think it's this mixture of being a mother-father, where it's like, yeah, I didn't miss my child was running track from the time she was 7 to she graduated from high school last year. I think I might have missed maybe like 1 or 2 track meets in all of those years. We talking about maybe 100 track meets, right? It was important for me to be there for her. So when she looked in the stands, she would see me. It was very important, right? And with Madia, my other daughter, like she like, both of my children like had different impacts on me. So my youngest daughter, it's like she gives me permission to be a child again. So I do a lot of one made me into a man, and the other one is kind of like we play around, and you know, she's a singer, so you know, we kind of do music together, and you know, we act silly. I act silly with the other one too, but it's like, you know, I go swimming with her, I go like all of these different things, because the age gap is there. I'm 50 and she's 10. So it's like I go on bike rides with her, so she keeps me young. You know what I mean? So I gotta keep up with her if I'm gonna be around, you know, Lord willing, you know, to see her graduate from college, then I have to be active. So that's my baby. We run around together. So I think it's it's fatherhood. Before I had children, I didn't know how or what type of parent that I would be. But I think being a father is one of the greatest blessings that I've had in my life. It's definitely made me into a greater man that I would have ever been if I wasn't blessed with my daughters, who have contributed to parts of myself that I wouldn't know without them.
What are your goals for the next 5 years?
To continue to touch more and more youth on a professional level, to touch more and more youth with my voice, as I possibly can. I do believe that work, whether it's on stages in classrooms, detention facilities, I believe that that's my God work and that's my assignment. That's what I'm supposed to do. Maybe in helping more and more people find their voice too, in whatever way I can assist in that. So it's that, and on a personal level, you know, being the best father I can be, being the best husband I can be, being the best human being I can be, getting closer to God, and just leaving a legacy of my namesake. Like I said again, my name is The Loving, so I just wanted to be said that in the end, like I brought love with me wherever it was, whether it was personal relationships with people or whether it was I'm on stage and you felt love from me and encouragement and inspiration from me, or in classrooms where kids cry and they tell me about their deepest secrets and I comforted them and gave them love. As we can see in this world, that's what we're missing. More than anything, we're missing love. So I just want to keep giving love and hope. The hope dealer.
Period. Where can people find you and follow your work?
Well, online, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn sometimes, but Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, put out different videos. You can follow me, Muhibb Dyer, on all of those different social media platforms. You can go to my website, muhibbdyerspeaks.com, and you can see, get more of a snapshot of the type of work that I do, especially if you are a school or you are a community organization, a college that's looking to book speakers and community healers. And you can catch me in Milwaukee and in a hood near you, somewhere,
Yes.
somewhere, a school near you, trying to bring hope to the hopeless and bring good to somebody.
In what ways can viewers support your efforts? But you probably already said all that.
In what ways can what?
Viewers support your efforts, all your efforts, or continue to.
I think first and foremost, just by paying it forward. Like if you inspired by anything that you hear here on this interview, go out in the world and find the good that you're supposed to do. I think we're in a critical time in history where that's what it's really about. They say the two most important days of your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why you were born. I hope this, if you don't know why you're born, I hope listening to this helps you find that. Helps you understand that you are not just some insignificant human being in this world, that that God put something great inside you, and that your giftedness is in giving it away and finding what's special about you and giving it away. I think we so focus on attaining things that we forget we're really here for people. And that's what I want people to do. People can support me by paying it forward and helping as many people as they possibly can, so that we can truly create a world where my daughters will feel safe, where sons will not feel like they have to pull guns on each other, where prejudice and sickness won't be a cool thing to do. If you look at the comments of people a lot of times on social media, it's sickening. we gotta love each other, and we gotta be better to each other, and that's all I want.
Thank you, Muhibb, for your time. We really do appreciate you for the work that you do in the community.